Hi, I'm Liz, and this is my craft blog, Venice in Winter. I'm going to post another video tutorial today, and I'm going to show you how to make this pair of earrings. This is a lovely pair of gold tone, crystal, and faux pearl dangles. It looks very complicated, but it's not. And I chose this design because I find it basic. A newbie may not, but it does use the basic techniques of the do-it-yourself kits I now have available in my Etsy store. The first thing you need to do when you undertake any jewelry project is think about, okay, what am I going to do and what do I need to do it? To that end, it helps to line up supplies. I'm going to lower my laptop a little bit so you can see the beadboard in front of me. A little better. There we go. Okay. Right here, the finished earring down here, I have on this side, these are my pliers. I have, well, this is a wire cutter. I have 2 pairs of pliers. These are my trusty use for everything pliers. You can find them in any craft store or online vendor. No jewelry maker should be without one. The next thing we're going to need is supplies. For this earring, as we're going to start from the top, you will need some way to fasten it to your ears. I'm choosing these, I think they're called kidney wires. Might have mistakenly identified them. They're kind of cool. I like them myself. Not everyone is into leverbacks. That's it, leverbacks. They're called leverbacks. Not everyone's into them, so if anyone sees these for sale in my Etsy store and wants a different kind, I'll be happy to change them out. But these are the first things I grabbed this morning. So we have a set of gold tone leverbacks, or whatever finding you prefer. You'll need some manner of dangle. I have these that always remind me of a sun, sort of, I don't know, some sort of old world looking thing. It has 1 loop on top and 3 loops on the bottom. Now mind you, just because I've done it with the 1 loop on top doesn't mean you need to either. I've chosen it this way so it's a little more of a traditional shape and not too intimidating for the newbie. These things are very fun because you can connect them, you can use them inverted, you can really go nuts with them. The more loops, the better. The next ingredients are, of course, your beads, and I've lined mine up here. I have, for the center dangle, that's hopefully is in focus here, we have a crystal bead. It's good plastic. I reuse a lot of things. It's nice plastic. I wouldn't give you the crap plastic. I threw those out. Okay, so we have the faceted plastic bead. There's another smaller, I'm not sure if you can see it, but a smaller faceted plastic bead in what's known as a bicone shape. The shapes I have here are just suggestions. This just happens to be what's in my jewelry collection. You can of course use any beads you fancy. And to finish off this dangle, I have a clear glass seed bead. The side dangles of the pearls involve the faux pearls and a slightly larger glass seed bead. Now, we're going to start right away with the dangles. Oh, and before I forget, what I wanted else to mention was you will need jump rings, 3 of them. Let me see if I can get one of these in focus here. Okay, probably not. It's exactly what it sounds like though. It's a ring that you open and close to connect elements of jewelry to another element. You will also need a form of head pin. For this, I decided to go fancy and use a decorative head pin. And all a head pin is a bit of wire, and the end is cut off in some fashion. Usually it just looks like a tiny nail head. That's your basic head pin. Sometimes they're a little fancier. This one is just sort of smushed down. I'm not quite sure how they made it, but it makes a pretty like spike or icicle looking thing. Especially if it's in silver, it looks out like icicles. But it's pretty bold, and you can get them by the hundreds at Fire Mountain Gems if you want. They have many other shapes though, and sometimes they can get really fancy, but more expensive. And I'm all about trying to save money and reuse what we have around. So, to that end, what I'm going to do right now is we're going to assemble the dangles because that's the most labor-intensive process, I find. I'm going to start with the center dangle. I pick up my head pin with the decorative end at the bottom. And I think, okay, what do I want, when the earring's hanging up, what do I want to see first? And I want a nice descending order of beads here. So I'm going to put my smallest bead on first. Let that go all the way down. Then my next bead. And the large round one. And finally, I have a little tiny gold colored bead I'm putting on sort of as an accent and to tie in with the theme. Okay, so now I have my dangle. And now we need to get ready to assemble. So I'm going to take my round nose pliers, so named because the noses are rounded. And I'm going to hold this very carefully in my hand. It does help sometimes if you have longer fingernails, too long to get in the way, but sometimes a little bit can help you. I'm going to hold the dangle like so and place my pliers right up against the last bead I put on. The bottom nose of the plier is going right up against the last bead, and I'm going to bend the wire at more or less 90-degree angle. Okay, this is step 1 to forming a dangle. See that? Looks a little funny. Now, for my wire cutters, I tend to eyeball this. Some people measure it out. Once you do this enough, you will know how much wire you need to leave for the dangle you want to make. But for now, we're only going to make a small loop. So I'm going to press my finger up against it again and use the skin on my finger as a bit of a guide. No, don't cut yourself when you do this. Place the wire cutters flush against your finger, and if you're coordinated enough, put this finger on top of the wire to prevent it from flying off and injuring someone. And like it just did. I hope no one's hurt. Anyway, sometimes it happens. Get used to crunchy vacuuming when you make jewelry. Okay, thanks for having patience with me during that cut. I now have trimmed the excess head pin away, and I want to make a simple loop now. With a simple loop, you will grasp the end of the wire tail here. Oops. And this takes a little coordination. It takes practice, like anything with jewelry making. So you're going to grasp that, close your pliers, and rotate your wrist with the pliers closed until the wire meets the bead once again. And you will have a loop. This is a simple loop. And you might have to wrestle with it a little bit to readjust it and make sure it's fully closed. And sometimes I like to give it just a little squeeze just to make sure. And ta-da! You have a dangle. Okay. Now we're going to do this twice again with the remaining 2 dangles. On goes the seed bead, on goes the faux pearl. Here come the pliers. You bend the wire, trim off the excess, and wrap that loop. You can make entire necklaces or bracelets, anklets, what have you. You can go bonkers just with making simple wrap loops and head pins. It's one of the easiest things to do, and it's really the backbone of a lot of jewelry making. So give that a little squeeze, and okay, here's one of our pearl dangles. Let's assemble the other one really quick. The more you do this, the easier it gets, I promise. It took me a little while to figure out how to do this, and I destroyed quite a lot of dollar store jewelry, learning just how this was all done. But luckily, we're now living in the age of YouTube and blogs and various websites, so now you can have instructional videos like I did not when I started doing this. And hopefully this will help out a stymied beater somewhere out there. Okay, one more loop. Alright, and you want to be careful too when you're using decorative head pins. Unless you're working with something that is actual sterling silver or gold, sometimes the metal can be a little bit weak. I'm not in a position to afford very fancy metals here, so I like to use a lot of items that I can get in bulk, and sometimes the brass or the whatever it is. Once in a while you will find a pin that just falls apart, or a bead that falls apart. It's just part of the game. So it's always a good idea maybe to keep 1 or 2 extra head pins or beads, especially the little ones. Keep them handy on your bead board. just in case of catastrophe, because I have had these things snap off. It's not very often, and I'm not besmirching the company they came from. It just simply happens. Maybe it was my error, maybe, who knows. But that's just an FYI. Always keep extras. Moving right along. We now have lined up on the bead board the 3 dangles. So let's start getting these things on the central charm and get these things on a pair of ears. Okay. Now for the jump rings. I'm taking my round nose pliers in my right hand here, and with the seam of the jump ring up top, I'm going to grab them with the other pair of pliers. And I'm going to very gently twist in opposite directions. My right hand comes to me, my left hand goes away from me. I prefer that motion because I'm right-handed. It just comes naturally. Your mileage may vary, but as long as the jump ring is open, just enough to get what you need in there. You don't want to be opening and closing them because eventually they will break. You can stress the metal enough that it will just go, you know. But, you know, treat them gently and they will really help you out. So, let's get that center link on because it's so fun to see those crystal beads dangling. So I have placed the charm on the jump ring, waving around there, and on goes the dangle. On goes the dangle. Sometimes I take a moment to reposition the jump ring when it's in my pliers because I don't want to drop anything and then have to pick it all back up again. Over comes the other pliers. Let's grasp the jump ring and do the opposite of what we did earlier. We're going to close this thing now. My right hand's moving away from me, and my left hand was moving toward me. The seams of the jump ring should meet again, and it should just look like a ring. Ta-da! See? This is the basic principle behind a lot of jewelry designs that I have done myself and a lot of the stuff that's out there. My DIY beginners, intermediate, and even advanced kits, they all involve doing this to one extent or another. Except maybe the real beginner one. But this is a nice baseline of skill that you can really jazz up. You can make a bunch of these, you can use a whole bunch of different beads. There's various weights and thicknesses of head pin you can use, and of jump ring, so just dive on in and start creating. Sometimes I don't even match up like the colors of the wire or the pen or the jump ring. Sometimes I like it to be funky, but as this may well be for someone else, I'm going to keep it a little more traditional. So, once in a while, your jump ring will not meet totally flush, and then you might want to just wrangle it a little bit. Just wiggle it, wiggle it around a bit with your pliers until you can get the ends to meet up as much as you possibly can. This will prevent things from falling off or from getting snagged on earrings, on hair, clothing, what have you. I try to keep the jump rings as smoothly joined as possible for the convenience of the wearer. Okay, here goes jump ring number 3. This is very exciting, we're almost done. And it just occurred to me I am missing the final jump ring, so I'm going to hit pause on this video real quick. Okay, here I am with my final jump ring that I will need for the project. Before I get there, I'd like to attach the last dangle. Okay. And onto the third and final loop. And remember, grasp firmly and gently rotate your wrists in the opposite direction from when you opened the jump ring. We're almost done. Final jump ring. And let's open this up. Put on the earring finding. And, of course, the earring itself. And carefully close your fourth and final jump ring. And this one looks like it's giving me a little difficulty, so I'm going to wrangle that really quick. There we go. Okay. And ta-da! There you have it. A very pretty crystal gold and pearl earring set. Thank you for your patience, and hopefully the next video will be a little more professional.